Krishna tells Arjuna, it is selfish desire and anger arising from the guna of rajas. These are the appetites and evils which threaten a person in this life. Just as a fire is covered by smoke and a mirror is obscured by dust, just as the embryo rests deep within the womb, knowledge is hidden by selfish desire. Knowledge is hidden by selfish desire. Hidden, Arjuna, by this unquenchable fire for self-satisfaction, the inveterate enemy of the wise. Really bold statement there. Selfish desire is found in the senses, mind, and intellect, misleading them and burying the understanding in delusion. Fight with all your strength, Arjuna. Controlling your senses, conquer your enemy, the destroyer of knowledge and realization. I thought this to be a very important teaching because it shows us that what misleads us in this life and creates all our misery and makes it difficult to attain self-knowledge is our preoccupation with the world of the senses, constantly in pursuit of self-satisfaction in the world of the senses, in the realm of mind. In the realm of senses, you already know there are tons of pleasures and luxuries that we are attracted to. But even on the realm of mind, there are feelings and ideas within which we also find satisfaction. Here, Krishna is like launching a war on selfish desire, labeling it the enemy of wisdom. But I love the way he phrased that in here. He phrased it as knowledge is hidden by selfish desire. Not that selfish desire destroys knowledge, or that because of selfish desire, we cannot attain knowledge as something we add on to ourselves. He said, just as a fire is covered by smoke, or a mirror is obscured by dust, knowledge is hidden by selfish desire. Meaning, knowledge is already there. It is in some teachings, it's called the natural state. It is called that which is. It is not something added on to us. It is not something we attain in this life. We need to remove the dust from the mirror. We need to, I often talk about the lake example. We need to clean and purify the lake. So here, we need to free ourselves from this unquenchable fire for self-satisfaction. Here, when Krishna guides Arjuna, controlling your senses, conquer your enemy. Controlling the senses, I felt simply means to not just be in an endless chase to pursue pleasure. Pleasant sights, pleasant sounds, smells, tastes, and feelings. Knowing them to be so fleeting, knowing that they really do not bring satisfaction. They only bring momentary relief from misery. Misery, which is constant seeking of satisfaction. Why? Why do this? Because it misleads us in life. When our entire when we are full of selfish desire, constantly seeking self-satisfaction in senses and mind, we are misled. And understanding, self-knowledge, is buried in delusion. So I feel that throughout the spiritual journey, there's this incredible momentum that this selfish desire has. The ego, which is our self-image, our idea of who we are, this image is constantly fighting to get more satisfaction from the sense realm and the mental realm. It wants all the good senses. It wants all the pleasurable feelings, and it wants to think highly of itself. As that momentum is so strong and constantly pulling at us, through faith in the teaching, through faith in God, through our own meditation practice, through our self surrender in day to day life, through our selfless work, through our work without attachment, we swim against that momentum, or we conquer that momentum. Krishna has showed us what is our enemy, what holds us back, and he has also given us instructions to work with to dissolve that obstacle. So how do we start to weaken our selfish desire, which when we discover this teaching, it feels like the only way to be? How can I get rid of my desire? I want so many things. I want so much in this world. I feel that one of the most powerful ways, and it's constantly talked about in the Gita, is a surrender to God. All throughout my life, I've tried to control everything. I've tried to control the world. I've tried to control my expression, my body. Now I surrender that. I've always held on to such a strong idea of what life should be in every moment, what the future should be, what my life should look like, what I should get and not get, when I must get certain things, what I deserve. Just being so attached to the conditions of what my life must yield to me in order for me to be satisfied and happy. Now I surrender myself. Now I let my life be shaped by God's will. I find my satisfaction in what God wills for me. In other words, what happens moment by moment, what comes, what goes. I am open to where my life may flow. Whatever may come in the future, I am willing to experience it, whether pleasant or unpleasant. I am done just chasing pleasure and abundant circumstances and constant good feeling. Nothing wrong with any of these things, but they are no more the highest purpose of my life to pursue these pleasurable things. I find God now in both the pleasant and the unpleasant. Instead of trying to get life to yield to me, now I yield to life. I flow with life. I allow life to be as it needs to be, as it is being and becoming moment by moment. And I open myself to that, not constantly looking at what is through a filter of what should be, through a filter of motive, of how I want to change it, what I want to change it into, and when. I've surrendered myself and I accept what God gives me. Yes, it is my personal nature in its weakness that only desires well being, safety, harmony, abundance. And that's okay. I let my personal nature be weak. Let it be. But in my heart, I am coming to understand that there is no satisfaction in the senses, just fleeting relief. There's no satisfaction in thought and emotion, just fleeting relief. I'm no longer chasing fleeting relief. I seek my satisfaction, my rest, my happiness within. I find my satisfaction, my rest, my happiness in surrendering to God's will, in acceptance of what is, in willingness of what may come. We all want unconditional happiness, unconditional peace, but look how much we actually run away from it, constantly trying to enforce conditions suitable to my preferences so that I can be happy. The price we have to pay for unconditional happiness is surrender to God's will, acceptance of God's will, unconditional happiness can never be found in the future, right? If it feels like it's going to be in the future, that means it has a condition. Conditional happiness is always in the future, never in the present. Unconditional contentment, happiness can only be found here, never in your idea of the future. And unconditional happiness is a very fancy term. Sounds really luxurious, extraordinary, but it is nothing other than just a simple acceptance of what is, as it is. Now, on the surface level of our lives, there will always be something to change, problem to solve, challenge to be dealt with, limitation to be experienced. So, acceptance of what is doesn't mean that we don't engage in any of those activities. As Krishna tells us time and time again, you are not to refrain from activity, you are to act without attachment. Surrender does not mean refrain from action, from taking care of problems and engaging in the story of what's happening. It means to engage without attachment, act without attachment, act in surrender, act in acceptance of what is arising moment by moment. Krishna tells us to do our duty, handle our responsibility, do what life is demanding of you, requiring of you to do in this moment without judgment, without resistance, without attachment to outcome. Don't try to make a heaven for yourself inside of this fragmented existence. It is meant to be a fragmented existence, things always breaking, never being perfect. You fix one thing, another one needs fixing. You fix that thing, another one needs fixing. The fragmented, imperfect nature of this existence reminds us that you are not to seek eternal happiness in it. It is a reminder of its impermanence, its illusory like nature. You cannot destroy selfish desire within yourself. You cannot fight against it because the very fighting against it will be stemming from it. It becomes another selfish desire to get rid of selfish desire so that you can achieve realization faster. Selfish desire is the nature of the ego. We cannot fight it. We just have to soften it little by little, let it be erased by itself by following Krishna's instructions on how to act, how to be, how to live. That's why we sit in meditation daily and dwell upon God's presence. That's why we discern between truth and illusion, the unchanging self and impermanent phenomena. That's why we stop looking for self satisfaction in the senses. That's why we work without attachment. That's why we surrender ourselves. Our spiritual practice is literally just that, purifying the mind of this dust that obscures our true nature. And one last point on this selfish desire. Krishna says here, he calls it an unquenchable fire for self satisfaction. The word unquenchable is quite right, and you have observed it in your own life. We all have. It is unquenchable. Fulfillment of one desire leads to another. All desires seek fulfillment, but the fulfillment of every desire only leads to more desires. It's one of the great lessons of life to acknowledge that. So, throughout our life, there will be a lot of pleasure. There will be times when we feel amazing. There will also be times where we feel terrible, confused. No matter how I feel like spiritually advanced you think you have become, there will be times you feel awful, fearful, terrible, and encounter difficult circumstances that challenge you, that make you feel like, have I even practiced at all? you know, during that time, weather the storm without resistance. Don't be afraid, and don't be, I mean, you can be afraid, but don't resist the fear. You can feel terrible, but don't think that there's something wrong with that there's something wrong with the fact that a storm has come, you know? The storm is also God's gift to us, teaching us in a new way that we didn't expect, perhaps reminding us to maybe intensify our practice, to give us a little slap when we need, when we get too occupied with sense seeking. Embrace, accept, allow, flow with rather than fight against. And as we discussed last week, actually, during every storm, every unpleasant experience, every time that you are really challenged, find refuge in God. Shelter yourself in God's presence within. Have faith. When no spiritual practice is possible, simply have faith and surrender to God. Ask God for help. Ask God for strength. That's doable, right? Like you could be totally miserable and caught in such a web of emotion and fear. No spiritual practice may be possible during that time, but you become so defeated that you just ask God for help. Like, God, I don't have strength enough to do this. You do it. You guide me wherever. So through following Krishna's instructions, little by little, the dust is removed. Selfish desire starts to become more transparent. It may guide the person here to there, but inwardly you are not fooled by it. There's a saying that like if you must desire God, because due to your desire of God, you'll start to just practice. You'll start to follow these instructions, And then just the whole notion of desire melts in the practice. You know, that's what's so beautiful about it. The desire for God brings you to the practice, and the practice melts even that desire into being that which you seek. Okay. So that is this week's teaching.